Planned Parenthood, it ain't no good. God for godly parents, thank God for godly teachers that don't whip out when it comes to the truth. Thank God for godly preachers. Planned Parenthood, you make me sick to my stomach, and sometimes I just want to cry. Your answers for kids, but you're their destruction. I got one question: why? You only plan to brainwash the nation. You justify murder and fornication. We taught my boy to wear a condom. 12 years old, had to take your course. Mandatory sex ed in the school. You're coming in like a Trojan horse. I'm not afraid to tell my kid about sex, but you want to teach her to play. You give her pills, pay to kill her, baby, or you're gonna pay yourself someday. You only plan to brainwash the nation. You justify murder and fornication. You are pro-abortion. You are pro-gay rights. I know one thing that you're against. You are anti-Christ. You don't plan to brainwash the nation. You justify murder and fornication. You only plan to brainwash the nation. You justify murder and fornication.
But it's wonderful to be here. I would not want any other place to be than with you guys. So, salute. Today we have a band that I grew up with and I fell in love with. Such a unique, great twist to thrash punk rock. They started in 1988, and oh my goodness, there you are.
Rooster.
There you are, buddy. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
That's so awesome. That was one of the questions that I was going to ask you if you still wear your mask. So,
Especially when I go to the bank.
especially in the bank, of course. Yeah, that's the obvious place. Oh my Lord, Doug, welcome to the Roosta Show. It's nice that you're my third Christian band that I've had on here, but I love the Lord with all my heart, and just I for some reason never had any Christian bands that actually responded back to me. So I started doing secular bands and got over 130 bands under my belt. So grateful to have you now, and got a bunch of Christian bands lined up. We got Deliverance, whole bunch of different stuff coming on, some metal. So, wow, I have your new album, man. It's amazing. Tiny Little Dots is freaking insane. The drums
like
are
it.
in it too, man. So great job on that. I figure I can't get past the first track. I usually have to play it 2 or 3 times because that's
Yeah.
like my track on it. It's just amazing. In fact, it's on right now. And so tell me about yourself, buddy. You've been around since 1988. Is that
Yeah. Well, first, let me jump on what you were saying earlier about your show and just let you know that you're a member of the media, man, and keep up the good work. You know, God has you in a place for such a time as this, and it's, nobody else is doing it, so jump right in there and be that person, man. That's awesome.
Heck yeah. I
Love
appreciate
it.
you saying that. That means a lot, actually. It's a tedious job, but you guys have your job on the stage, and I have mine on on a podcast right now. I
Yeah,
mean, I
buddy.
do like to write music myself, and so hopefully I'll be joining you guys on the stage someday. But I just yeah, for right now, this is where I'm at. I'm trying to do the best I can with it. So, well, man, God bless you first of all, and hopefully you're. Where are you at located, by the way?
Still
New
in the
York?
Austin, Texas area.
Oh, Austin, Texas.
Yeah, that's where
Okay.
we started back in 1988. Kind of just started as a joke, a bunch of, I was doing Heaven's Metal magazine about that by that time, so I was hanging around a bunch of
Yeah,
musicians, and
I
the
remember
church I
that.
went to, we had a bunch of musicians at our church. Our bass player was the worship leader and associate pastor at our church, and originally we were going to call our band Talking Ass, and the name of the album was going to be called Stop Hitting Me, and have a kind of an illustration of the donkey talking to Balaam. And one of the deacons at the church took me out for lunch and said, "I implore you, Doug, to change the name of your band because Maury, this is going to taint his, reputation, or it's going to somehow
Yeah,
uh, taint what he's doing as associate pastor and worship leader." And he said, "You guys are creative, you can do it." So I said, "Okay." That was kind of the push in the right direction that got me going. I looked through our lyrics at Mad at the Girls. I want to control my lust, and
yeah,
put them lust control. And Paul Kupek, who was in One Bad Pig and a solo artist too, he said, if we're going to call the band Lust Control, we have to name the first album This Is a Condemnation, which a buddy of his named Ronald Bronson came up with. And so that's how it started. We would rehearse for like 3 hours and write three original songs in each rehearsal. So by the end of three or four rehearsals, we were ready to go in and record live to two track. And we had a guy named Steve Allen
oh,
who ran the sound for all the Christian bands in Austin, pretty much at normal clubs and whatnot. We went into this rehearsal space. It was like a rehearsal complex where they had different rooms where bands could come in and rehearse with sound
yeah,
systems, but they also had a control booth so they could record. And so he brought in a Betamax video recorder, which was a digital format, and that's what we
yeah.
recorded live to two track. And we went in there and we tested out the gear before we started, and then we went in and we recorded 11 songs, knocked it out. And when we came back into the control room, Steve was like, "I got some bad news, guys. It's tested out when you started, but none of that was recorded." And I had like screamed my guts out. My throat was kind of shot, and we were
Yeah.
like, and a band was walking in right after us as we were getting our gear out. This guy walked in with a joint down the hallway, and there was girls with the band members, and they were all going in to do their rehearsal for
Yeah.
rehearsing. And we were like, well, we don't have the studio again until midnight. So Doug, you go home and take a vow of silence for 4 hours, and we'll
Yeah.
come back here at midnight. And we did that. So we recorded from like midnight to 3 a.m., knocked it out, and that's the raw recording of This Is a Condemnation. And
Bad album. I love
started.
it, man. All your albums are amazing, actually. I enjoy them so much because it has that old school vibe of like that Black Flag vibe, and all that. That's just that raw, good punk rock that is just in your face, that circle jerks, in your face, and it's awesome, man. In fact, I got Black Flag
Nice.
tonight. I got
Glad
Dez,
you like the
got Dez
sound, man. That's
tonight.
cool.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just I'm telling you, man, I've been a fan of you guys for a massive long time. So this is like I'm kind of at a loss of words at a little bit. I still can't even believe you're right here. It's it. I when I first became a Christian, I started off with there were some other bands like Flock 14 came out,
Yeah,
Man at the World, and so I kind of was getting into a lot of those at LSU, Lifesavers Underground, and so I mean, and then became a radio DJ for a little bit for the Cause. It was a radio DJ Christian station, and so that was fun.
very
And
nice.
but they didn't like playing you guys though. They didn't like us to play. Yeah, definitely not the Big M. The Big M is the greatest track. Did you come up with the lyrics, by the way? We froze. Froze. It's all right. We froze.
Okay, yeah. I think it's my internet. Okay.
It's all right. It's snowing over here, so it could be mine too as well.
All right.
So that's how I got into you guys, because they had like a section of music that we couldn't play: Light Force, Mortification, Vengeance Rising, and then a whole bunch of different stuff. And you were in that mix, and I was able to get a couple of CDs from them that they weren't wanting to play, and so that's how I got started with you guys. And now I still listen to you, and I love it. I enjoy it. I appreciate your boldness. So, what got you to want to? Okay, first of all, before we get into that, because this day and age is so whack when it comes to sexuality. It is out of control. Men thinking that they're women and all kinds of weird stuff going on that is just, and then every other commercial has to do about AIDS pills, and it's just, you're not, no joke. It is a condemnation. It's actually really sad, how far that us as society has come away from God. Uh, and it's easy to fall down that trap, because even myself, many years, I mean, and I'm just trying to even still pull myself out of some of the crap that I put myself in. Um, but so what got you to want to sing about this stuff so far back? I mean, it's been going on for a while. I mean, all this sexuality and weirdness. Is that what something you noticed back then and just saw a need to?
Kind of, sort of. This is a good time to take the mask off.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Oh,
Get real about some real topics. Uh,
yeah,
so yeah, when we first started, it started out as a joke, and we each of us there was like four members who all wrote lyrics, and we brought lyrics to the table. Um, I think the first song I wrote was "Rude Awakening." Might have been that song where it was basically the gospel and kind of a in your face soapbox preacher. Repent, you got to change. Your wicked heart makes God puke. You deserve to go to hell. And that's exactly where you go unless you turn to Him. He'll say, I never knew you unless you know Him now. Wake up and smell your sin. And so, with that kind of approach, we decided to bookmark it with Grace. So the song Grace. And so I asked Maury, our associate pastor, and he's a Presbyterian seminary graduate, a theologian. He had
yeah.
an A in Hebrew and an A in Greek. And so
Wow.
I said, write us a song about grace. I put it in the hands of an expert. And he came back with grace, saved by grace, I'm saved by grace, I'm saved by grace, I'm saved by grace, saved by grace, I'm saved by grace, grace. It's funny and ironic but I think the genius of it is he boiled it down to its simplicity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Grace, we're saved by grace. So we start the album off with grace, and we end the album with the grace reprise. So everything in between, we remind people that there's grace and there's
Yeah.
forgiveness available. And so all the finger pointing kind of goes to that. And anyway, so Paul wrote a song called "Mad at the Girls," and this guy's working at the
Awesome track.
mall, and love that song. It's one of my favorites. And he's trying to get his job done, but the girls walking by distract him, and he's mad at the girls, mad at myself because he knows it's his own problem, that it's his
Yep.
fault that he's lusting. And
Exactly.
and that's where we got the band name. And then Paul told me, I'm gonna write a song about masturbation and call it the Big M. And I thought, that's a funny idea. That's really cool. And before he could come to rehearsal with the song, I wrote one. So I wrote the lyrics to the Big M. And but anyway, to answer your question, we came up in the 80s, 1988 is when we recorded that first thing.
Yeah.
And the 80s were saturated with sex. And our culture, the Western culture especially, is sexually drunk. It's like it's out of control. It's like you perfectly described. It's saturated in everything from marketing. Men are stimulated visually, and
Yep.
so to sell products, they use mini skirts to sell beer and uh, steak or whatever. It's everywhere. And so, with the culture being sexually drunk, somebody needed to step in and preach or speak some truth and some wisdom, some reality to that. So, just going into that
Slap
dark
them in
place,
the
and
slap
doing
them
that.
in the slap them around a little bit. Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
wake up.
Well, sometimes
Yep.
being blunt is the best way, because when like okay, so sexual sin is not like other sins. It's a sin against
Your old body. already did it again. I it doesn't at times. I don't understand. Just
Yeah,
once in a while.
it's my
But
ISP
like you
over
were
here.
saying, it like sexual sin is a sin against your own body.
Is that
Is
where we
what you
left
were
off?
getting ready to say. I know your lyrics, yeah.
Okay.
Sexual
So
sin.
because that sin is deeper than most, and it affects our
Yeah,
identity as people, and we try to hide it, so it affects our psychological. Sometimes the best way is just to be blunt, to speak it out, and
yeah,
be upfront about it, because it's a taboo subject. It's kind of swept under the rug, and and I understand that you don't get a room full of males and females and go all explicit. That's probably not the best scenario to get super explicit or super blunt. So there's degrees of tactfulness and wisdom and how you
yeah,
present it. But this is punk rock, and the music is made to be in your face. It's made to say, "Hey, wake up! I've got a bullhorn, and I don't like this political system." It's an attention getting
yeah.
method of music.
Yes.
So it's a perfect marriage for a message like that.
Yep.
And so that's kind of how that first album came out. Those two songs, The Big M and Mad at the Girls, I guess, were the biggest ones that addressed that issue. And when that came out, it was such a hit. And there's some funny stories I could tell about what kind of impact that made when it came out. But
Yeah.
one of the byproducts was we realized nobody else was doing it. And so, as the main songwriter, the lyricist or vocalist, I wrote a bunch of the songs, but we all still contributed. Um, like Maury wrote Swimsuit Edition Wallpaper, which is
Yeah.
a great metaphor for, swimsuit edition wallpaper. It's what's in front of us. What we put in our eyes is important.
Yeah.
Uh, and what
Sure.
about your wife? Like get down to the basics and say, what are you playing games with? What about your wife? Don't screw this up. Um, and then Planned Parenthood, which is another one of my favorites that Paul wrote.
That's amazing.
Um, but
Parenthood
so,
ain't no good.
yep. So nobody else was doing it. So just kind of like what you're doing with reaching out to all kinds of bands. Nobody else is doing that format. So get in there and do it and be used by God and watch it go, and
Yeah,
take off.
yeah.
Really cool. So that's kind of what happened with us. And it became a serious ministry at that point. I realized that, if we're going to deal with this, um, we need to be careful and we need to take it seriously. It's like the Big M is kind of funny and people laugh when they hear it because it's so audacious and everything. But there's a certain
So,
seriousness. And so I used to do a spiel in our concerts where I talked
yeah.
about it. Uh, One thing I would say every time was, you know, um, the reason why God says don't fornicate or save sex until marriage is not to be a killjoy, not to bum us out, or to
Yeah.
say no chocolate sundaes until Friday afternoon. You can't have one on Wednesday. It's not like that. It's because
Nope.
the sexual union is a bond physically, duh. It's a bond
Yeah.
emotionally, and it's a bond spiritually. We don't even quite understand what bonding is taking place spiritually, but the Bible talks about it. And anyway, and so in most unmarried relationships, there's a breakup. And so you've got this bond that's taking place, and you're ripping apart those bonds inside of you. And God doesn't want you to go through that pain because it's painful for the
Yeah.
physical and the emotional and spiritual to be just shredded and ripped up. And so that's why it's like a guardrail. It's like stay on the road,
Yeah.
and this is why. And so I would say that some version of that in all of our concerts usually, because I would want to address it in a room full of both genders, and just basically because I like to tell people why. I don't just like to be a finger pointer and then just
Yeah.
walk away. I'd like to explain why.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about this, what about that? Okay, well, I'll address those things. And it's kind of the angle
And
like to.
you also don't want to be the judger, like like the Bible says that don't take the little speck out of someone else's eye when you have a log in your own. Also too, I mean, just there's so many ways of looking at what you just said. I mean, very important to especially letting them know, like, before you get into it, because some people would think it's a joke. It's not a joke. The lyrics of that song are actually pretty intense. The Big M, you did a well job on phrasing it and putting it together and composing it, because it really actually hits home. You know, it is natural. It is a release. I understand that, but it's it also separates you from goodness. It's the goodness that is right. I mean, I got a beautiful wife, 25 years. And she's a wonderful woman. I love her, and it makes me feel bad when times that I would see a naked woman, and all that stuff, or a nudie magazine. Those times that I was married with her, and it's like, what the hell? I got a beautiful girl right here. Wake up.
Yeah.
And so I do appreciate what you guys do. I mean, it means a lot. It does. I don't know how many people it reaches home to, but I know me and my buddy of mine that is the same town that I live in right now, and we grew up listening to you, and I kind of got him into punk rock a little bit, and he just we still, I don't know, sometimes it's just, life has been just so hard. There's been so much going on in this world. And it's
Yeah.
like so tiresome, having to deal with the drama that life deals to you at times, the silliness that's going around us. I'm a man, not a woman. That stuff is just mind blowing. I still can't even believe that's going on. All the gender stuff.
Yeah.
There's almost more genres, it's like genres, of punk, there's so many genders, I mean, it's like, what the hell? I'm a this, I'm a that. It's like, what the heck? They're coming up
Yeah.
with new words. It's like,
Yeah, you brought up your wife. I want to talk about marriage for just a second. Guys, there's like a theater in our mind, and if
yeah,
we can make our wife the star of the theater and put her on the big screen and don't let anybody else get up on that screen, and so uh, avoiding looking at other women, whether in it fully clothed or half clothed or no clothes, whatever,
yeah,
any of that, keeping our eyes, guarding our eyes from that, and we make our wife the star in the theater of our mind. And so
of
when she walks
course.
in the room, it's like, oh, there's the star. And it
Yeah,
it 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 kind of is a kind of the way sin will kind of have a snowball effect. Sin can get worse and get entangled and more.
yes,
Righteousness can do the same thing. And when you can to fill your mind with the images of your wife and you're in the moment, you just take it in, and
yeah,
you get impressions, and we could talk about history in your life and the impressions that are made at certain times, imprinting. So imprint your wife on your mind, and there's a blessing to that,
yeah,
because it kind of feeds and builds on your affection and your love. And so, the star of your movie comes into the room, it still takes your breath away, and it kind of
that's
feeds and
cool.
builds on that.
That's cool. So you're a family man yourself?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, but
Do you
this
have
world of
any other musical projects besides Lust Control?
No, doing the Heaven's Metal magazine for so many years, that is like fully steeped in the musical world. And this was like my only outlet. I don't really have any musical talent. Like I can't play guitar or drums. Can't really sing either. I have
Yeah. Thank God
my
for punk
hearing.
rock, huh?
Yeah, my hearing is kind of a half step below, what you hear and what I hear. Um, but yelling and screaming is kind of what I do, but it's like the only real outlet. And what I noticed is when you have an outlet, that's when God seems to bless you with creativity. And when you're working on a project, oh, here's a good time to pour some creativity into your brain. A good time to give you some ideas. And
You're
that's when a lot
finally
of stuff
you're
flows.
finally opening yourself up a little bit here, and so I could give you some. Basically, he gives us enough that we can handle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not too much that we get overwhelmed, because I mean, I know what you're getting at. I know what you're getting at. Sorry, I've been sick for like a week, and so
Oh,
I'm like
really?
trying to still get over it. I'm flu, yeah.
Yeah, I want to
I
speak up for
was,
my brother John, the bass player Butch. He was going to be a part of this
yeah,
interview, but he's got the the flu, the influenza stuff. And
Yeah.
so he can't even talk. His throat is just shot. It's been a week-long process where he's just not getting better yet.
I've been coughing all night, and yeah, I'm hurt right now. I'm actually sweating. I'm just
Hmm.
wearing a t-shirt and sweating my tail off.
Thanks for doing this.
Hey, no problem. Hey, I appreciate you guys very much. I appreciate what you've been doing. So what's some of your musical influences that got this going?
Well, I remember when I was a kid in high school, the Columbia Record Club and the RCA Record Club were the two record clubs. Columbia was like you get one record free, or you get a bunch of records free, and you have to buy eight in the next three
Yeah,
years. RCA was a little
get
bit better.
10 with one
Like,
CD, 1 cent.
yeah, you
Remember
just have to buy
that
one,
deal?
and they give you these stamps, and you can pick out the stamps you want and put that on the order form and send it in the mail, and boom, you get 10 vinyls showing up at your, and you only have to buy one. The problem with RCA that both of them were ripoffs. The RCA, you have to buy one album in the next 3 years, but every time they come out with a mailer every month, you get an album selection, but it's on sale. And a sale item doesn't count as your fulfillment. So you can never get out of that agreement unless you just suck it up and pay full price, for one of their albums. But anyway, there was a news show called 2020 back in the late 70s, and they did a special about the Sex Pistols. They came to America, and I think they came to Tulsa, Oklahoma, kind of a conservative place, and I don't know if they vomited on stage, but they had piercings, they had weird looking hair, and their lyrics had profanity in it and stuff. And
Oh
anyway, this
yeah.
news thing presented them as like this new evil that was taking over the world. It was almost as like Elvis Presley and how he scared all the parents in the 50s because he gyrated his pelvis and his hips.
Oh yeah, he did.
This was multiplied by 100 and put fear into the parents. And my mom told me, I know you like a lot of rock music and stuff, just don't get that album. And that night, I closed my door in my room, went into my Columbia Record Club catalog and got the Sex Pistols, Never Mind the Bullocks, and put the stamp on it and sent it in. And so they're obviously an influence. Was influenced by, I was influenced by rock and roll magazines like Circus and Cream. Like Ted Nugent and
Okay.
Steven Tyler of Aerosmith kind of gave me my morals on how to view the world and how to view the opposite sex and all kinds of stuff. And so that I was kind of, I was a prodigal son at that point. And but those were kind of influences. The rock and roll musicians in general, classic rock, but the Sex Pistols. People say that we remind them of the band Fear or Flipper sometimes, and
Yeah, I can
I've
see
never
that.
really gotten into those bands. But this is just the result of four guys coming together to make something crazy and wild and fun, and
Yeah,
it kind of captured some of that energy, I think, which is kind
it
of cool.
did. Totally did. Yeah, I actually really did. I feel a vibe of Black Flag in it. Personally, the good early stuff with Keith Morris. Um, that's I just want to say that I think the way you guys' sound is just perfect. It's very energetic, very in your face, very your vocals are amazing. I think you're screaming, I should say, and yelling is just brilliant. I think the way you guys come about it is very tactful, um, and it gets people to really want to think, if they're willing to think about it. If they're willing to open up about it, because it's a powerful message. So tell me real quick about your Heavens magazine.
Yeah.
That tell me how did that come about? Did you start it? Is it
Yeah, I started it back
still
in 85. I was reading a fanzine called Acme, which stood
okay?
for Alternative Christian Music Enthusiast. And they were going over some news, and they had some news about a metal band. And they said, by the way, with the advent of Christian metal, somebody should start a Christian metal fanzine. You'd meet a lot of needs and have a lot of fun along the way. And I thought, I could
Yeah,
do that. So I prayed about it. I sought counsel about it. I even got permission from, I was part of a couple campus organizations at the University of Texas. One was InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, which is really awesome about getting Christians to think with their brains, and Chi Alpha, which was really cool about discipleship, and they had really cool worship. So
yeah,
I went and asked them if I could use my student status to kind of climb on the backs of their status with the the University of Texas Student Union, and they had like the mimeograph machines, the things that
Yeah.
used to be tested in high school.
Yeah.
Everybody would take a
Yeah.
test and they'd smell it. I was going to print the
Yeah.
first issue on something like that. Um, didn't go that way, but anyway, so my vision was gelling, and I was taught that when a disciple sees a need, he meets it. Like if somebody's hungry, he feeds them. If they're naked, he clothes them. And I
Sure.
was going to meet a need in the Christian heavy metal movement, which was just starting to boil and getting ready to
Oh,
explode. And artists need publicity so more people know about them. The audience, especially Christians, they want to know about the heart of the artist because they want to feed their spirit with good food and
yep.
not junk food. And so out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So by the course of these interviews, when people are speaking, people get to understand the heart of the artist better. They trust them more, and
Yeah.
it all spreads and kind of builds this thing that way. So it kind of met those needs. And I got in on the ground floor of a movement in '85 that exploded. So I got to grow with the movement.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of fun. And, I had a staff of 5 at many points, and um, circulation that went around the world, and it was in uh, bookstores like Barnes and Noble, Tower Records, as well
Yeah.
as bookstores all over the nation. And it was fun to kind of be a part of the landscape. That's how I started interviewing these mainstream rock stars like Henry Rollins or Sammy Hagar or Alice Cooper, is because I was a media outlet, and the publicist um, wanted to get their news out to every media outlet out there. I'll send the press
Yeah.
release to everybody, and a certain percentage will do stories on them. So I would say, yeah, I'd like to do a story on Shotgun Messiah or Tora Tora or Dangerous Toys. And they would say, okay, we'll set up the phone interview. How's tomorrow at 3 o'clock sound? And so it was really cool to be a media outlet like yourself and just try to be a good force in the world, because the media can be so biased. And
Yep.
God needs somebody in every vocation. He needs plumbers, he needs guitar players, he needs carpenters, he needs people in the media, he needs people in
Yep.
politics, he needs people in the military, police, whatever. And so just fulfilling those roles is God's kingdom spreading out across the community. And so anyway, the magazine was did that. We went out of print in 2012, and kind of uh kind of gave up the ghost in a sense, but kept the website going, and that's still going in 2 different formats: hmmagazine.com and heavensmetalmagazine.com. Both
Yeah.
cover alternative and metal.
Yeah. There was some amazing metal that came out in the late '80s and early '90s that I fell in love with. Mortification, Vengeance Rising, Living Sacrifice. I mean,
Yeah,
just the list can just keeps going. Believer, oh, I love Believer, dude. Like a
yeah.
song when they did like a song
Oh
by
yeah, that
U2.
U2 cover.
Oh my lord, it
That
was
was great.
amazing.
You
And
talk about
so I mean,
musical outlets. I wrote a song with Steve Rowe of Mortification. I was over
yeah.
there in Australia one time, and I said, you should write a song about Mephibosheth, because that name sounds so death metal. Mephibosheth. And so we sat down and wrote together that song, and it's a really grooving, fast song. I still get
Which
royalty check.
album is that off of?
Primitive Rhythm Machine.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. Okay.
Uh, so that was a lot of fun. So that was like my only, and I got on stage one time with a band called Sexually Frustrated, which was the members of um uh Flatfoot 56. It was a side
Okay.
that they were influenced by Lust Control, and they wrote a song called The Bigger M, and they wanted me to go up on stage and sing it with them. So I got up on stage and did that. But those were kind of the only 2 other extracurricular musical activities I can remember doing.
That's funny. That's awesome. I actually am in contact with them, and hopefully I'll have an interview coming up with them sometime. Flatfoot 86.
Great
So
people.
yeah, so we got Altar Boys at the end of the month.
Nice.
Yeah, that actually was my very first rock band concert I ever seen. Was
Really?
Altar Boys.
Where
Yeah,
at?
Moreno Valley, California.
Cool.
It was at high school. It was through Calvary Chapel,
Nice.
and my Calvary Chapel met at my high school.
Wow.
They used the whole
The quad
cafeteria.
area, the cafeteria.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, they killed it, man. It was a gut
Hmm.
level music album.
Oh, that's such a
Yeah.
great album.
Oh, it's
You,
brilliant. It's every track on it's like Perfect. You are
You
loved,
Found
man.
Me is a love song to Jesus, punk rock style. I love that song.
Yeah. It's just there's so many good things, and that's why I'm kind of trying to do what I'm doing right here because
Hmm.
I don't want bands like yourself, to be forgotten. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not forgotten to me. I still listen to you guys every day, almost. I mean, it's just I listen to Michael Knott. I listen to all kinds of Painted Orange. Remember them?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's so many good bands. Dead Artist Syndrome.
Yep.
It's been a love because I'd rather listen to something with wholesome lyrics than to listen to that I still kind of relate with because I still relate with goth. I still
Yeah.
relate with the old school punk, and I always will. I'm not going to change myself. I got a
Right.
mohawk still,
Nice.
and but yeah, I know and I just I don't want it to die, and so
Well, you're keeping it alive by doing what you're doing. So thank
guess
you
who
for
I
the
just
bottom
talked
of my heart.
today? But it was Chris from Fluffy and
Yeah.
Breakfast with Amy. So I'm gonna
Right.
have him on the show too.
Cool. Tell him
Uh,
I said hi. When I got signed to Michael Knott's label, I hung out with him that weekend that we mastered the album.
Blonde Vinyl, you
Yeah.
talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Chris
Yeah,
Colbert.
I guess he's been doing a bunch of other stuff. So we're gonna find out about all his other projects. He said he put out like 100 other CDs and stuff like that. So don't know much about it. So we'll find out. Anyway,
Cool.
so we're kind of getting low on time, but um, I anything you like to say to the people?
A couple things. One, I want to talk about like the band Verse and talk about Grace a little bit, but I wanted to talk about Tiny Little Dots, because
Yeah,
you're digging on that
please.
album, and that's our latest musical release. And so, wanted to say I appreciate the fact that you're listening to it and enjoying it. Some of those songs, like the song Finger, we wrote back in 1994, and
Whoa.
then we broke up. Our guitar player said, "I'm out," and so we took like I think a 17-year hiatus. We got back together in 2011, and the song Finger, we had never recorded it. We played it live, and it was just a song we all loved, and it kind of took like uh kind of a Galactic Cowboys riff and a Crucified riff, da-dum, da-da-dum,
Love
like
them
going into the
crucified.
pit. And
Ooh.
I do what I do. Put those two together, and the vocals, get your hands out of her pants. And so anyway, when got back together, we got back together explicitly to play Cornerstone and to record that album, Tiny Little Dots. So song
Yeah,
Finger, which had to be track number one because it's so in your face. I can't imagine that being track number two or at the end of the album.
yeah.
Although we used
No.
to save it for the end of the concert. Um, it's such a cool song. It's funny, in '94 when we broke up, uh, this promoter in Australia, a guy named Owen Beck, who had a band called the Rockin' Rabbis, which had a
Okay.
couple albums out you should check out.
Oh, we'll
Cassette
check them
I
out.
think they might have had CDs, but the Rockin' Rabbis. Anyway, he booked a tour for Lust Control, and he flew me out. And since my band was on hiatus, we got three musicians from his church that learned a 19-song set, and we did a couple concerts in Perth, Australia, way on the west coast of Australia. And it was funny when we got there. I sat in on a couple rehearsals with them, or maybe just one, and I said, "I'd like to do one of our new songs. It's called Finger, and it starts off with da dum da 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 dum da dum da dum, and it goes da 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 da." So I just used my voice to explain how the song went, and they learned it, and we played that in our set. And
Wow.
I got that on YouTube. I think you can find it as the Perth, Australia show. But that was so fun to do that in our stead. But anyway, going back to Tiny Little Dots, that was the one song we had to get, and we wrote, there's 13 tracks on that album, and
Yeah.
John, aka Butch, and his girlfriend Marla wrote a song called Sheep Eater, which is about some kind of pastoral woundings or church hurts that she'd gotten over the years, and
Yeah,
about
yeah.
how some spiritual leaders are like sheep eaters. They feed on sheep, and but that song kind of has a creepy. I liken it to kind of Ozzy Osbourne, gink, 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 like nails on a chalkboard kind of
Yeah, yeah,
intro.
yeah, yeah.
So that's a fun song. And then Fire Ants was a song that I told Butch, our bass player, to kind of let his bass be like the front runner instrument in the song. So it kind of has an old school uh, pop punk kind of vibe to it. it's funny. We had Paul Kupek, our old friend, produce the album for us, and he got them in the
Sounds
studio
very
to do the
familiar.
background
That name.
vocals. Fire
That name.
ants is the chorus of that
Yeah.
song. Um, and Bully Bully is kind of another kind of a punk rock old school song. You can look up some of the track listing, but the title track, Tiny Little Dots, is about the concept of pornography and photography itself, which pornography bases itself on, is the magnification of tiny little dots, like in printing a magazine. I learned how, like a photograph,
Yeah.
if you blow it up, you see the tiny little dots that where they're arranged make up the image. And so it's all fake. It's not a girl on the screen. It's a bunch of tiny little dots made up into um, an image that you see. And the song is kind of like a guy who's in love with this girl, and all she is tiny little dots because she's an image on a screen or a page.
Oh, that's awesome. I hate to say it, but we have like 1 minute left.
Okay.
Anybody you like to thank before we get off?
Oh gosh,
And I
everybody.
thank you for your time too, by the way.
Yeah,
I
thank
do
you, brother.
appreciate it. It means the world.
The band verse is 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has seized you except what is common to man, and God is faithful with the temptation. He will provide a way out so that you can stand up under it. That's kind of been our band theme to kind of convey to people. No matter what you're facing, if you've fallen down a million times, get up again. God forgives you, God gives you. And then when you're faced with a temptation, you're in the arena, you have a choice to make, and you can
Yeah.
be empowered to make the right choice. You don't have to fail
True.
every time. And if you fail, face up to it. We all share that defeat, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know.